The Korea Baseball Organization's 2024 regular season kicked off over the weekend, with the league's 10 teams seeing sold-out stadiums for all 5 opening games.
지난 주말 프로야구 KBO 리그의 2024 시즌이 시작된 가운데 개막전이 벌어진 5개 전 구장이 매진을 기록했습니다. Alright.
Yes, baseball season is back,
Yeah.
believe it or not. See, when baseball season starts, that's when I know spring is here.
Right.
Because you could feel the energy. I don't know, yesterday I was riding the subways.
It was
and
so
I saw,
warm yesterday.
I saw so many people wearing uniforms, team uniforms
like
to go.
jerseys.
Jerseys,
Yeah,
exactly. Or
yeah.
kits, as you say in England. But they were either going to the game or coming back from the game. But you could feel the excitement in the air.
Oh, definitely. All right, tell us more about the KBO.
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the headlines, all 10 teams were in action and all 5 stadiums
Yep.
were sold out, including here in Seoul at Jamsil Stadium,
Sure.
where we had the defending champions, last year's champions, the Twins, versus the Eagles.
Eagles, yeah.
And I was excited for this game because the starting pitcher for the Eagles was Ryu Hyunjin, Ryu.
Of course.
So he's back in Korea after
Yeah.
12 years, so that was really exciting. Jamsil's a big stadium. It fits 23,750 to be exact, and every seat was filled.
Wow.
Likewise, down in Gwangju, also in Suwon, and in Changwon as well. All these stadiums were jam-packed, and everyone's excited for a new baseball season.
작년 우승팀을 defending champions라고 하는군요.
Yes, exactly. The defending champions or the reigning champions.
아, 지금까지 그 1위 자리를 차지하고 있다는 뜻이죠.
Yeah. So now everyone's trying to
Right.
dethrone them from their spot. But
왕자를 내가 차지하겠어. 다른
Exactly.
팀들이 이러고 있는 거죠.
another thing to watch for baseball this year is the KBO has adopted this thing called an ABS system.
Okay.
It's an automatic balls and strike system, and it's similar to soccer VAR. So it's like instant replay.
Oh, right.
But this technology can tell balls and strikes better than a human can. So we'll see. The KBO is the first league in the world to adopt this. I believe the
Really?
major leagues are tinkering. They're testing it out. They're piloting it in the minor leagues right now. But it'll be exciting to see how this affects play.
자, 그러면은 이렇게 야구 시즌이 시작됐다라는 표현부터 보겠습니다. Start.
To kick off is
Kick
another
off.
way.
Uh-huh.
In soccer, again,
Yeah.
there's the kickoff.
Yeah.
In American football, there's a kickoff too. But if something just kicks off, it just means to begin or
맞아요.
something initiates something.
And we don't normally just simply say, the baseball season has started. You could say that, but I guess it's more fun to say it's kicked off.
There's this celebratory kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Or in a non-sports kind of theme, you could say the show kicked off with Sue's beautiful voice in the morning. And
Thank you.
Then everything
and
went down.
Shane's wonderful explanations.
And then everything went downhill.
No.
from there. Yeah.
자, 뭔가 시작됐다. 스타트 써도 괜찮은데요. kick off라는 표현이 여기선 쓰였습니다. 원래 이제 축구에서 발로 공을 빵 차면서 시작되는 이 축구 게임에서 온 표현인데 이게 뭐 야구 게임이든 아니면 그냥 우리 일상생활에서든 무언가가 시작됐다고 할 때 It has kicked off. It will kick off. 이렇게 얘기할 수 있습니다. 자, 그다음에 개막전이 다 매진이었거든요.
Yeah.
매진.
You can say it as a noun, it was a sellout, or the stadiums sold out. So to sell out means that all the tickets that were available were all bought up. So
Yeah.
there were no more available. Merchandise inventory, you can sell out.
Yeah.
A store can sell out of goods.
Absolutely. Sell out. 이게요. 동사로 썼을 때는 sell 따로 out 따로 그러나 한 표현인데 이 형용사로 쓸 때나 아니면 명사로 쓸 때는 그냥 한 단어입니다. 그래서 여기서도 sold-out stadiums. 형용사로 쓰였죠.
Yeah,
예.
you can say a sellout crowd welcomed the performers. for
Sell-out
example.
crowd, sell-out stadium 다 판매가 됐다. 이게 매진이고요. 그 다음에 명사로도 아까 예를 들으셨는데 it was a sellout.
Yeah.
이때는 그냥 한 단어로 쓰시면 돼요.
And there's also slang meaning to sell out.
Okay.
If you sell out, you betray someone. That means you're not loyal. Oh, Sue was a sellout.
Oh, no.
She didn't come to the company dinner. She
She
came
said
and
she
go.
would, but she went and hung out with
Somewhere
someone
else.
else.
Yeah, so you're a sellout. You're...
배신자 이런 뜻이에요?
Exactly.
그렇구나. 슬랭에서 이 셀아웃는 또 안 좋은 뜻이 있네요. 매진이 아니라 배신.
Yeah, to betray.
알겠습니다. 참고로 알아두시면 좋을 것 같아요.
Come to the company dinners.
네, 이 슬랭의 의미와 그다음 우리가 정식으로 쓸 때 의미가 다른 단어가 참 많습니다. 자, 이렇게 킥오프와 sold out까지 살펴봤고요. 다시 한번 제가 읽어보겠습니다. The Korea Baseball Organization's 2024 regular season kicked off over the weekend with the league's 10 teams seeing sold-out stadiums for all 5 opening games. Let's move on to the next headline.
Russia's state media has reported that 11 people have been detained for their involvement in a deadly attack on a crowded concert hall near Moscow, which has left at least 137 people dead and hundreds more injured.
모스크바 인근의 붐비는 공연장에서 테러 공격으로 최소 137명의 사망자와 수백 명의 부상자가 나온 후 지금까지 이 사건 관련자 11명이 검거됐다고 러시아 국영 언론이 보도했습니다. Tell us more, Shane.
Yeah, so this was Russia's deadliest terror attack since the early 2000s when there was a big event when Chechen rebels conducted a terrorist attack. But I don't know if you've seen video from this, but Islamic State, ISIS, as they're also known, has claimed responsibility for the attack. And it comes just days after Putin was reelected, I think for the millionth time, to his position. Now, here's where it gets interesting because President Putin is blaming that these suspects that were detained were in cahoots with Ukraine.
Ah, okay.
So now this hasn't been proven. There's no evidence of this, but
that means they colluded
or maybe there was
did something together.
An invisible force working behind there. So 4 suspects were stopped in a region not far from the border with Ukraine. They had planned to cross the border there and had quote unquote contacts in Ukraine. But this is according to the state news agency in Russia.
Well, the U.S. VP Kamala Harris has actually said, according to U.S. intelligence, Ukraine has nothing to do with this. So we have very different statements from either side in this case.
If you're a conspiracy theorist, you could argue that there's the political implications that Putin is using this terrorist attack for his own agenda, his own political agenda, possibly. And that reminds me of, do you remember the movie Wag the Dog?
No.
And that expression means, when a military strike happens to distract other domestic issues going on. It happened during the whole President Clinton days.
Right.
But this could be sort of a distraction or just a ploy for own political gain. Possibly. These are all just, not proven, unsubstantiated claims.
그래 아직 이제 정확히 어떻게 됐는지는 밝혀지지 않았으나 일단은 2000년대 초반 이후 가장 큰 규모의 그런 테러 공격입니다. 137명이 최소 사망했다라고 지금 보도가 되고 있고요. 아이시스, 우리는 이제 IS라고 하는데 아이시스가 그 배후에 있다라고 밝혔습니다. They have claimed responsibility. 근데 러시아 측에서는 IS와 우크라이나가 손을 잡은 것이다. 이렇게 주장하고 있어요. 이것에 대해서 지금 이제 미국 측에서 공식적으로 부통령이 얘기하기를 우리가 알기로는 전혀 관련이 없다 이런 입장이고요. 우크라이나도 뭐 당연히 그런 입장이겠죠. 자, 그래서 이제 일단 표현을 좀 보겠습니다. Detain somebody.
Yeah, if you detain someone, you hold them or you hold them back from proceeding. So if someone's in custody, they are detained without a formal arrest, if you want to get into technical terms.
그렇죠. 자, detain이라는 것은 억류하다, 구금하다라는 뜻이에요. 그래서 여기서는 11 people have been detained. 11명이 검거됐다라는 의미로 보시면 되겠고 for their involvement in something.
Yeah, if you're involved in something, you're associated with it, you're connected to it, you're embroiled in it, for example. So here they're trying to figure out how they were involved in this terrorist attack.
그렇죠. Be involved. 무엇과 연루되어 있다, 관련이 있다. 그래서 involvement라는 명사를 쓰면서요. Someone's involvement in something. 무언가와 연루된 누구라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Russia's state media has reported that 11 people have been detained for their involvement in a deadly attack on a crowded concert hall near Moscow, which has left at least 137 people dead and hundreds more injured.
Heavy rains in Rio de Janeiro state have killed at least 23 people, according to Brazilian authorities, while a 4-year-old girl was rescued after more than 16 hours under mud.
브라질 리우데자네이로에서 내린 폭우로 최소 23명의 사망자가 나왔다고 브라질 당국이 발표했습니다. 한 4살 소녀는 진흙더미에 16시간 넘게 갇혀 있다가 구조되기도 했습니다. Oh dear.
Yeah.
So much rain.
So the death toll when we went to bed last night was 7, but
Yeah.
that's ballooned up to 23
It
now.
has indeed.
And so where this happened was in a state of Rio de Janeiro. So I had to look this up. Brazil has 26 states and a federal sort of district, kind of like the U.S. But this happened near the metropolis of where Rio de Janeiro is. Obviously, a lot of people live there. But whenever there are these natural disasters, just devastation, there's always a silver lining. And we hear this story about this 4-year-old girl who was pulled alive after, can you imagine, 16 hours. Can you imagine how scary that is? But sometimes children are more resilient. You know, they have there's just something about them that they survive these sort of calamities. And the girl's father, unfortunately, died when he was knocked to the ground. But she survived because he was protecting her with his body. And 3 more people had died in that same place. But, our prayers go out to the people who are suffering in this natural disaster.
Absolutely. Just last week, we had another story about Brazil and how I think it was called the heat index.
Heat index.
Which is how hot it feels like.
Right.
And it was over 60 degrees.
60?
60.
Celsius?
Yes,
Wow.
Celsius. So it's not only very, very hot, but humid as well. And it's deadly, as we can see here.
Yeah, firefighters are struggling to reach these areas hit by heavy rain. Sniffing dogs are part of the rescue efforts as well. Almost 100 people have been saved so far.
Okay, the first expression is state.
State, right. So a state is an administrative district that's part of a country. Here we call them provinces in Korea, other places like Canada, China have provinces. Let's see. England has counties.
Yes,
I did not know
that's
that.
right.
Do you know how many there are? I had to look this up.
I don't know how many, actually.
39, apparently.
Okay, there you go.
But Canada has 10 provinces, 3 territories, so on and so forth.
Yep, Japan has prefectures.
Prefectures, exactly.
Yes. And you just mentioned Canada has provinces.
Provinces.
네. 주라는 뜻의 state가 여기서 쓰였어요. 브라질에 있는 리오데자네이로 주
State, right.
근데 나라마다 이 행정구역을 나누는 게 다르기 때문에 단어도 다르고 좀 나누는 기준도 다 다르겠죠. 자, 그다음에 be under mud.
Yeah, if you're under mud, you're submerged in this sticky, wet, kind of solid mixture of dirt and debris. So pretty straightforward,
Yeah.
under mud.
진흙더미에 갇힌 상태, 묻힌 상태를 말합니다. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Heavy rains in Rio de Janeiro state have killed at least 23 people, according to Brazilian authorities, while a 4-year-old girl was rescued after more than 16 hours under mud. Moving on, this is our next headline.
A study has suggested that bamboo can offer a new protein source akin to cow's milk, boasting a variety of health benefits, including high levels of protein, amino acids, iron, dietary fiber, and vitamins.
단백질, 아미노산, 철분, 식이섬유, 비타민 함량이 높은 것을 비롯해 건강상의 이점이 다양한 대나무가 앞으로 우유와 유사한 수준의 새로운 단백질 공급원이 될 수 있다는 연구 결과가 나왔습니다. 그러면은 이제 앞으로 대나무 죽자를 써서 죽유 나오는 건가요?
What is? Oh, I see. With milk.
Yeah.
Well, it's saying that
아니면
it's.
그냥 대나무?
I think
on
just
its own?
it's the shoots they're talking about,
아,
right?
죽순.
I
아,
think.
죽순이군요.
Right, which is the
어.
young. It's a young bamboo plant that's
Right.
edible,
Ah.
and it's a staple in Asian food
Yes, it
already.
is.
So I'm suspecting this is probably a study that was conducted in the West, but they're now figuring out the nutritional benefits
Right.
of bamboo.
아, 그렇군요. 그 뭐 우유에 견줄 만큼 그렇게 지금 좋은 단백질의 공급원이 될 수 있다라고 했지만 사실 이제 단백질류는 농담이었고요. 여기 대나무, 네, 대나무의 그 죽순, 영어로는 bamboo shoot라고 합니다. 네, 이게 얼마나 좋은 단백질의 공급원인지 서양의 연구 결과 나왔다라는 것이고요. 사실 이제 동양권에서는 이미
Sure.
뭐 중국이라든지 이런 데서는 굉장히 흔하게 반찬으로 나오는 것이죠, 이미.
And it goes along this trend. I think a lot of people are trying to find protein substitutes away
course.
from animal meats.
Yeah.
We won't get into that, but you know, our body needs proteins.
Yeah.
And so other substitutes for that, you know, beans, eggs, dairy products are very good. But if we can find new protein sources, because a bamboo shoot, would you classify it as a fruit or a vegetable? Probably a vegetable.
Vegetable, I think.
But vegetables, you know, as protein, they're not well known. But apparently bamboo has it. So our body needs all of these nutrients.
Oh, absolutely. It says that it's akin to
Akin
cow's
to.
milk.
If something is akin to something, that means it's similar, it's related to. For example, my wife's hobbies are akin to mine. That means we have similar hobbies.
아, akin, A-K-I-N입니다. 아, 이제 서양 연구가 아니라 중국 연구라는
Oh,
점
okay.
네, 확인 드리도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you for that.
네.
감사합니다.
아, 그리고 여기서 이제 akin to something이라는 게 이제 무엇과 유사하다라는 뜻이 있어요. It's related to something. 자, 그래서 이제 소의 milk, 우유죠. 우유와 비슷한 수준의 그런 단백질의 공급원이 되겠다 이런 거고요. It boasts something.
When you boast something, here it was used to mean to have or just to contain. For example, the hotel room boasts one bedroom and a bathroom, you could say.
그렇죠.
But normally boast means to brag
Yeah.
or to, to be prideful of something, right?
그렇죠. 사람이 쓸 때는 자랑한다라는 뜻이지만 여기서는 사람이 아니죠. 이 대나무가 뭔가를 boast한다라고 했는데요. 대나무에는 이러이러한 게 있다라는 뜻입니다.
I suspect China is the largest producer of bamboo. About 6.4 million hectares of it. But less than 6% of it is dedicated to actually producing shoots. The rest of it is
Right.
mostly for timber. So I could
interesting.
see why China maybe had sponsored this study.
Yeah, absolutely. 자, 그럼 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. A study has suggested that bamboo can offer a new protein source akin to cow's milk, boasting a variety of health benefits, including high levels of protein, amino acids, iron, dietary fiber, and vitamins. Let's move on to the next headline.
A South African man was rescued from the jaws of a 4-meter-long crocodile by his wife, who bravely bashed the enormous reptile on the head with a log before it could drown him.
남아프리카의 한 남성이 4m 길이의 악어에 물렸다가 아내의 도움으로 구조됐습니다. 당시 아내는 그를 문채 잠수하려던 악어의 머리를 통나무로 용감하게 내리친 것으로 알려졌습니다. Okay, we're laughing about it now, but it would have been pretty scary at the time.
I would imagine, and this gentleman is indebted to his wife.
Yeah.
For the rest of his life.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
If I give a little background information on this, so this gentleman, he was on a fishing trip with his son, and he was wading in an inch of water. Can you believe that? An inch of water, it's about 3 centimeters.
It's very shallow.
Because he was trying to untangle some line that had gotten into a tree, but a crocodile was apparently laying in ambush or lying in ambush, waiting for this. So crocodiles are able to move stealthily in an inch of water. Which is pretty scary.
Yeah.
So the crocodile got this gentleman by its jaws. And what they call it is alligators and crocodiles, they do the death roll. So they grasp onto you and they don't let go and they start twirling to kind of, make its victim.
That's called the death roll.
They call it the death roll.
Oh,
But then the wife heard this, came from nearby with a giant log and began smashing the crocodile over the head, and its jaws open. But luckily, the gentleman suffered just 4 deep wounds on his legs and stomach, as well as some single tooth wounds. But he was able to survive this ordeal.
그러니까요. 아내가 생명의 은인이네요. 진짜 he's indebted to his wife. 자, 그래서 정말 큰 상처 없이 살아남은 게 아주 기적적이고 참 다행입니다. 근데 이제 머리를 통나무로 내려쳤다 그랬잖아요.
Yeah.
내려치다 한번 볼까요?
She bashed the crocodile in the head. So if you bash something, you strike down
Yeah.
violently or you hit forcefully with
그렇죠.
something, right? Bashing the table
Yeah.
in anger. Yeah.
진짜 bash, bash라는 단어는 굉장히 과격하게 뭔가 이렇게 내리친다는 느낌이 있어요.
As a noun, it also means
Yeah.
a party, right?
Oh, yeah.
You throw a birthday bash.
A birthday
or-
bash.
Yeah, and you can also use it informally as when you criticize someone, to bash someone.
Oh, yeah.
So, luckily our morning special listeners don't bash us
No, thank you.
on the online 판디 게시판, right?
네, bash가 이제 캐주얼하게 썼을 때는 슬랭의 의미로는 누군가 비판하다, 비난하다가 될 수도 있고 아니면 파티라는 뜻이 될 수 있어요.
Yeah.
어떻게 이렇게 부정적인 것과 긍정적인 뜻이 다 있을까?
That's why English is
그죠?
so difficult.
네, 그래서 birthday bash 그러면 birthday party라는 의미도 있습니다. 자, 여기서는 그러나 bash가 내리치다, 세게 치다 이런 뜻이고요. reptile인데 파충류요. 근데 enormous reptile죠.
A very big reptile, right? Enormous. A reptile, I guess, I don't know how I would explain this
Right.
without getting into biological terms, but they're things like lizards, snakes,
Yeah.
crocodiles, dinosaurs were apparently
okay.
reptiles, but they're cold-blooded mammals. Not mammals, excuse me. They're not
They're
mammals.
reptiles.
They're reptiles. They're cold-blooded, air-breathing, they're
Yeah.
egg-laying vertebrate.
And the reason
animals.
this expression is used is because you don't want to say crocodile twice in
So
one
it's
sentence, right?
another way to describe it.
그래요. 이제 영어로는 가급적이면 한 문장 안에 같은 단어를 이렇게 반복적으로 쓰지 않으려고 하기 때문에 이 4m나 되는 악어 한번 crocodile이 나왔잖아요. 그래서 또 다시 crocodile을 안 쓰기 위해서 the wife bashed the enormous reptile 이렇게 다른 단어를 쓴 겁니다.
And we don't want to get into the difference between crocodiles and
No,
alligators,
let's not do that
we?
today.
Right, okay.
Well, if you want to.
Well,
do you have
I
it?
always thought that crocodiles, when I was young, they have pointier snouts.
Oh, do they?
Alligators have more rounded ones, but I think there's a more scientific definition of it. I think alligators are all part of the Crocodilia family. So they're all related.
Okay.
They're cousins.
All right, there you go.
Nearby
I'll take
cousins.
your word for it.
Okay.
Enormous reptile, 거대한 파충류. 여기서는 악어를 말합니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. A South African man was rescued from the jaws of a 4-meter-long crocodile by his wife, who bravely bashed the enormous reptile on the head with a log before it could drown him. Well, that's it for the headlines today.
The government will inject a record 255 trillion won in trade insurance this year to help the country reach its exports target of $700 billion, according to the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy.
산업통상자원부는 정부가 올해 수출 목표 7천억 달러 달성을 위해 역대 최대인 총 255조 원 규모의 무역보험을 공급할 예정이라고 밝혔습니다. Tell us more.
Well, the good news is that exports are up for the fifth consecutive month. That's as of February. And the trade minister has said that we've got this budget now allocated for trade insurance that's going to help South Korea achieve this annual export target of $700 billion in 2024, or 700 billion won, excuse me, in 2024.
Dollars would be a different story.
Yeah, it would be a very different story. So out of this budget, we're going to have something like 136 trillion won is going to be allocated to key sectors like chips, batteries, and ships. There will be another 7 trillion won, excuse me, again, spent on the defense industry, and 15 trillion won on the energy sector as well. This is a big deal. It's a lot of money, but hopefully it's going to get towards boosting Korea's exports and making Korea an even bigger powerhouse than it is now.
So this year's target is 700 billion won, as you said. And this trade insurance, it's never been this big before. 255 trillion won is a record high amount, right?
It is. It's a very large amount, and
Yeah.
hopefully it will do the job it's meant to do.
Now, if you say you inject that much money. What does that mean?
Well, you're putting it in. The word inject, when you or I would use it in conversation, is probably when we go to the doctors and we might get an injection. They inject us with some medicine. It's good for you, Sue. Just grit your teeth and get through it. But we can also use it in terms of finance. We can use it in terms of cars. You have a fuel injection engine, for example. But all it means is you're putting something directly into something.
그죠? 주입하다라는 뜻입니다. INJECT. 그런데 보통은 injection 할 때 많이 쓰는 단어라서 주사를 놓다, inject 이 뜻으로 일상생활에선 많이 쓰죠.
Yes, and so in this case it's a record injection.
그렇죠. 그래서 난 주사 맞는 게 너무 무서워 이런 말을 하고 싶으면 방법은 여러 가지인데 I don't like injections 이럴 수도 있고 I am not fond of needles 할 수도 있고요. I have to go for a jab. But I'm not looking forward to it. 이렇게 말할 수도 있을 것 같아요.
Yeah, basically, I don't think anybody likes needles, Sue.
Yeah, that's true. I especially have a hard time when I go for an IV drip.
Yes.
Because they can never find my blood vessels. I'm just one of those people. I have very thin blood vessels and they're hard to find.
I had a problem. I once had a nurse. She had to attempt it 8 times.
Oh my
to find a vein to get the IV into me.
Oh, a vein is the word I was looking for. Yes, yeah, exactly. 그렇군요. 그래서 IV가 intravenous죠.
Exactly,
vein이랑 같은 단어 어원이 있는데 우리 이제 그 혈관 주사 intravenous IV. 그다음에 IV drip는 우리가 흔히 말하는 링거라고 하는 거예요. 수액 주사. 그래서 그런 거를 이제 또 맞을 때 you inject a needle into your body and you get the IV drip.
Well, you inject the medicine into your body.
그러네요.
Yeah, the needle is the thing that's injecting the medicine.
That's right.
Yes.
It's a good point. the needle goes into your arm or wherever it is, your body, and then the medicine is injected into your body. Into your system.
Exactly. And this right here is why neither of us are doctors.
That's right. Don't come to me for medical advice. 자, 그래서 inject가 이렇게 주사로 뭔가 주입하다가 될 수도 있고
네.
돈을 이만큼 투입하다가 될 수도 있겠네요. 자, 그다음에 reach its export target.
Yes. So your export's target is your goal, the amount that you want to export. And to reach it means you achieve it. You get to it. You are successful. We have the expression reach for the stars, meaning try to do your best in everything you do.
그러네요. 목표를 향해 갈 때 reach for the stars. I feel like there's a lot of expressions with stars in it in English, right?
Because it's the heavens above us. It's the place that's impossible to reach, but we all want to get there.
그렇죠. 이제 좀 높은 목표이긴 하지만 어렵지만 그래도 그렇게 그 높은 데를 향해 가라. Reach for the stars. 이렇게 말할 수도 있어요.
Yeah, but at this time in the morning, I think people are probably more likely to be reaching for a coffee.
Yes, indeed. 자, 그래서 여기서는 reach its target라고 했어요. 목표 달성이라는 의미로 reach a target라고 합니다. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The government will inject a record 255 trillion won in trade insurance this year to help the country reach its export target of 700 billion won, according to the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy.
Local gasoline prices have dropped for the first time in 8 weeks, with the average gas price falling to 1,638.21 per litre in the third week of March.
3월 셋째 주 전국 주유소 휘발유 평균 판매가가 리터당 1,638.2원으로 내려가면서 국내 휘발유 가격이 8주 만에 하락세로 돌아섰습니다. Okay, so petrol or gas prices have gone down slightly.
Yeah, I've got good news and bad news, Sue.
Okay, what's the bad news?
Well, the bad news is they're going to go up again in a couple of weeks.
Because international oil prices are up.
Yeah, and basically what happens is when international oil prices rise, because basically there's a decrease in exports, it takes a couple of weeks for that to have an impact on Korea. So right now, we're benefiting from a drop, but there's probably going to be another rise coming up. So according to OPINET, which is the Korea National Oil Corporation's price tracker, It's not just gasoline, but also diesel was down.
Yep.
The gasoline sold at pumps across the country fell 1.11 from the previous week. And then we have diesel prices shedding 1.51, getting down to a record 1,538.21 per litre. So now is the time to fill up your tanks because in a couple of weeks' time, it may well bounce back up again.
네, 디젤은 경유죠. 경유도 지금 한 2주째 내리고 있다고 하는데 휘발유 가격, gas prices, 영국에선 petrol prices라고 하죠.
I get very confused because in my head, when you say the word gas, I think of natural gas.
Yeah.
But if you're American, then gas means gasoline generally,
Yes.
unless you're talking about natural gas. So yes, petrol is the word that I use, but many people around the world just say gas or gasoline.
그래요. 이 단어가 좀 헷갈릴 수 있는 이유를 설명해 주셨어요. 미국에서 휘발유는 gasoline인데 이걸 줄여서 gas라고 해요. 그런데 또 gas는 원래 이제 기체라는 또 다른 뜻이 있잖아요. gas. 그래서 이제 영국 사람의 입장에서는 특히 헷갈립니다. 영국에서는 휘발유를 petrol이라고 해요. 어쨌든 이제 diesel and gasoline or petrol 다 지금 좀 내리고 있지만 앞으로는 다시 오를 가능성이 높습니다. 아무래도 국제 유가가 상승을 하고 있기 때문에 그렇죠. Let's have a look at the first expression. It is to drop.
There's lots of different meanings for this word. But here we're looking at a decrease, a reduction. Something is going down. And here what's going down? Well, it's the price of petrol. The price of diesel is dropping. It is reducing.
그렇죠. drop라는 게 이제 뚝 떨어지다라는 의미죠. 자, 그다음에 per liter.
Yes, well, litre is the measurement we're using, 1,000 milliliters, and we use per, P-E-R, where we want to say for 1 litre. So, for example, if you go to a theme park, you might ask, how much is it per person? Meaning for one person, how much will it cost? Or if you go to a restaurant, how much is it per dish? How much is it per drink? Meaning how much is it for one of those things?
그렇죠. per 뭐뭐뭐 그러면은 뭐뭐당이란 뜻이어서 per liter는 리터당이라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 리터 스펠링을 영국에서는 L-I-T-R-E
Yes.
이렇게 쓰니까 아마 많은 연방 국가에서도 그렇게 쓸 거예요. 근데 미국에서는 L-I-T-E-R 이렇게 씁니다.
And this is a general rule. If you look at British English and American English, British English often follows the French. So we have R-E for theatre, for example, or
yeah.
litre or metre. Whereas American English, they wanted their own way of spelling things and they wanted it simpler,
Yeah.
so they went for ER instead of RE.
좋아요. 자, per liter, 리터당이란 뜻이 되겠습니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Local gasoline prices have dropped for the first time in 8 weeks, with the average gas price falling to 1,638.21 per litre in the third week of March.
The French government has raised its security alert posture to the highest level after the deadly attack at a Russian concert hall and the Islamic State's claim of responsibility.
프랑스 정부는 이슬람 국가 IS가 배후를 자처한 최근의 러시아 공연장 테러 사건 이후 자국 보안 경계 태세를 최고 수준으로 높였습니다. A lot of countries in Europe are taking preventative measures, but of course France has an Olympic event coming up.
Exactly.
And,
The Paris Olympics and Paralympics are a big deal. They were already on high alert, and now they've gone up to their third. They have 3 levels. They've gone up to their highest level now, the attack emergency level. And that's activated if there's an attack in France or abroad, or when there's a threat that's considered imminent. So certainly I think they're taking this very, very seriously. They're very, very worried. And what that means is there will be exceptional security measures. So that's increased patrols of armed forces in public places. I think they just want to make sure that the citizens of France are safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because, I mean, the attack in Moscow that was claimed by the Islamic State K group, we're talking 137 people or more were killed, 140 injured.
Yeah.
It's very scary that this kind of thing can happen. And I think in the back of everyone's minds, in Paris at least, was that awful attack at the Bataclan Theatre back in 2015. And they want to make sure that nothing like that happens again.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the first expression, which is security alert posture.
How do I look, Sue?
Yeah.
How do I look? How's
Thinking
my
about
posture?
my posture right now.
So this-
자세.
Yeah, it's a little bit different to posture when we talk about our bodies, because that's how we're sitting or standing or how we are.
Yep.
Whereas posture here is more about your attitude or your position towards something, how you feel or how you're going to act towards it. So in terms of governments or businesses, when we talk about their posture, it could be to do with security, it could be to do with the economy, it could be to do with sales and marketing. The point is, this is their attitude, this is what they're doing.
posture라는 게 우리 그냥 일상생활 속에서는 자세예요. 그래서 you have very good posture, Paul.
No, I don't.
이게 자세가 굉장히 좋으시네요. 이게 반듯하게 앉고 걷고 할 때 사실 이 posture만 잘해도 키도 좀 더 커 보이고 좀 더 날씬해 보이고 그렇다라고 하더라고요.
I feel taller already and I can't reach the mic anymore.
선생님은 원래 키 크시니까 뭐 상관은 없겠지만 posture가 여기서는 근데 자세가 아니라 security alert posture예요. 그러니까 보안 경계 태세, 그 어떤 방침이나 정책을 의미한다고 볼 수 있겠어요. 프랑스에 보안 경계 관련된 여러 가지 이제 단계들이 있을 텐데 그런 거를 이제 여기서는 posture라고 표현을 했네요. So security alert에서 highest level, 가장 높은 수준의 보안 경계 태세를 지금 갖추고 있다. 이걸 이렇게 표현을 했습니다. 자, 그 다음에는 claim responsibility, or in this case, claim of responsibility.
Yeah, so if you claim responsibility, you say, I did it, or this is mine, or this is because of me. You're saying, this is all my fault, or this is all my doing. So very often, in the office, you want to claim responsibility for the work that you do.
Yeah.
Don't let your boss claim responsibility for something he didn't do. Make sure you claim it. However, it can also be used in these really tragic incidents where terrorists are claiming responsibility for an attack, meaning they take the credit for it. They say, we did it. It was our attack.
That's right. So you have to remember these two terms together, claim and responsibility. 동사일 때 claim responsibility 하면은 내 소행이요라고 말한다는 뜻입니다.
네.
그래서 자신의 소행이라고 주장할 때 A claimed responsibility 이렇게 claim을 동사로 쓸 수도 있고 여기선 명사예요. 그래서 IS's claim of responsibility of가 들어간 이유는 바로 claim이 명사이기 때문에 이게 주장, 내가 한 소행이다라는 주장이란 뜻인데 이걸 이제 한마디로 말하면 이 사건의 배후에는 우리가 있었어. 이렇게 얘기하는 거죠. 그래서 보통 뉴스에서 어떤 사건의 배후에 누가 있었다라고 할 때 someone claimed responsibility or someone was behind the attack 이렇게 말할 수도 있습니다.
네.
네, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The French government has raised its security alert posture to the highest level after the deadly attack at a Russian concert hall and the Islamic State's claim of responsibility. Let's move on to the next headline.
A British runner has made history by becoming the first woman to complete the grueling Barkley Marathons race in the US with just 1 minute, 39 seconds to spare of the 60-hour cutoff.
혹독하기로 유명한 미국의 바클리 마라톤 경주에서 영국의 한 주자가 총 60시간의 마감 시간을 단 1분 39초 남기고 골인해 이 대회를 여성 최초로 완주하는 기록을 세웠습니다. There's something confusing about this story, and that is the name of the person. So this race took part in America.
Yes.
The winner was British.
Yes.
But her name is Paris.
Well, Jasmine Paris.
네, 이름이 Paris여가지고
Yes.
이제 처음 볼 때는 이제 조금 헷갈릴 수 있지만 그냥 이름일 뿐입니다. 영국 사람이고요, Jasmine Paris.
Yes, from Midlothian, and she's done what no other woman was able to do, which is complete this course. And my goodness,
Can you tell us about this race?
this is a tough race.
Okay.
It takes place in Tennessee at the Frozen Head State Park. It's 161 kilometers, involving over 18,000 meters of climbing and descent. That's about twice the height of Mount Everest.
Oh,
You're going
wow.
up and down Mount Everest twice. Only 20 people have ever succeeded because there's this 60-hour cutoff. She was 40 years old. And she lost her voice by the end, so she couldn't actually have any interviews. She had to text message journalists to say what she thought. It's a weird race because there's no markings to say where you have to go. You have to memorize the course. And then there are a number of books along the course. So anywhere between 9 and 14 books. And you have to find each book and you have to tear out the page according to your racer number so that at the end you can prove you found every single book. So it's like a treasure hunt a race and a mountain climb all in one.
And this takes days, 60 hours.
60 hours, yeah. And if you finish at 60 hours and 1 minute, you're still disqualified. You're still a loser.
와, 듣기만 해도 약간 숨이 턱턱 막힐 것 같은 생각이 드는 게 일단은 레이스, 경주라서 좀 저는 그냥 좀 달리는 건가? 많이 달리나? 그랬더니 그게 아니네요. 이렇게 거의 에버레스트 산의 2배 높이가 되는 정도의 등반과 이제 등산, 하산 계속 이어지는 것이 있고 일단은 총 마감 시간은 60시간이라고 합니다. 근데 이 60시간을 그 안에 완주하기가 힘들어서 지금까지 20명 정도밖에 완주 못했다고요? 이번에 20명?
Yeah, so a total.
이번에 20명이 완주를
Oh,
했어.
no, in the history of it.
In the
only
history.
Only 20 people have.
이 경주 역사상
It's that difficult, Sue.
20명밖에 완주를 하지 못했고 이번에는 5명이
네.
완주를 했나요? 와, 그게 60시간이면 사실 며칠이잖아요. non-stop 계속 가는데 굉장히 흥미로운 것은 중간중간 책이 있답니다. 이 책에 자신의 그 넘버가 있잖아요. 다 그 달리기 선수마다 레이스 넘버가 있는데 그 넘버에 해당되는 페이지를 찢어가지고 나중에 결승선을 통과하고 나서 내가 여길 지났다라는 증거로 그 찢어진 페이지를 보여줘야 되는 굉장히 특이하네요.
Yeah, because there is no set course and it's running through the night in extreme conditions, and therefore you can't have people sort of waiting at these points to check. So these books are a way of proving that you've completed the race properly.
사진을 보니까 이 자스민 파리스라고 하는 영국 여성이 그 말을 전혀 못하더라고요. 뭐 목소리를 잃었다고 이제 말씀해 주셨는데 그냥 이렇게 푹 쓰러져가지고 마지막에 굉장히 힘들어하는 모습이었는데 그래도 어쨌든 60시간이라는 기한 안에 들어왔어요. 가까스로. She made it. There was a 60-hour cutoff. Let's have a look at that expression.
Yeah, meaning you had to do it within 60 hours or you're disqualified. It doesn't count. If there's a cutoff for something, for example, students will be familiar with cutoffs. Another word for them will be deadlines. You have to hand in your homework by this time. Otherwise, you will be penalized, will be punished, you will get detention.
네, 60시간이라는 기한이 있었다. 제한 시간. 네, 그런 의미로 there was a 60-hour cutoff라고 하고요. 이 전체 경주가 very grueling 했습니다.
Oh, this word, I mean, the sound of it, grueling, is not very
Grueling,
nice.
yeah.
It means it's really tough, it's exhausting, it's difficult, it's awful. If something is grueling, I will say, and no offense to the people who make it, I think the Sunung is a grueling exam. Students come in first thing in the morning and they have to go all the way through to the afternoon. They work so hard, and by the end, I'm sure everybody's exhausted.
진짜 굉장히 지칠 것 같은 생각이 드는데 이 레이스도 그렇고 지금 시험 보는 많은 수험생분들도 그렇고요. grueling하다는 게 굉장히 힘들다, 혹독하다라는 뜻입니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. A British runner has made history by becoming the first woman to complete the grueling Barkley Marathon's race in the US with just 1 minute 39 seconds to spare of the 60-hour cutoff. And let's move on to the final headline.
The Australian government has announced it will support a minimum wage increase in line with inflation this year as low-income families continue to grapple with costs of living.
호주 정부는 저소득 가구의 생활비 고충이 지속되자 올해 법정 최저임금을 물가 상승률에 맞춰 인상하는 안을 검토 중이라고 발표했습니다. So currently it's already at over $20 per hour.
Yeah, but the inflation continues to rise. They rose it last year by 5.75% because the cost of living had surged. People were worried that doing that would stoke inflation, but it seems like it hasn't. We have inflation slowing in Australia, 2-year lows at the moment. So they're doing it again because they've said the real wages of low-paid workers should not go backwards. That is their position, which is fair enough. They want everyone to be paid a fair wage. So we'll see what happens. Everyone's expecting it to be to go ahead. The Treasurer has said that they're expecting to do it, so we will see. They have their upcoming budget in May. They also said they're going to deliver tax cuts for every taxpayer from July this year. Right. So hopefully good news for Australian citizens.
그럼 현재 호주의 최저임금이요. 23호주 달러 정도 됩니다. 그래서 이걸 이제 원화로 환산하게 되면은 2만 원 정도인데 지금 물가 상승률에 맞춰서 조금 더 올리겠다라고 얘기를 하고 있어요. So let's have a look at this expression, in line with inflation.
Yeah, if you do something in line with something, you're matching it or you're following it. You're trying to be equivalent to it or to stabilize it, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So in this case, they want to make sure that workers have enough money to match the rise in the cost of living.
그래요. In line with 뭐뭐뭐, 무엇에 맞춰서라는 의미가 되겠습니다. 물가 상승에 맞춰서 in line with inflation. What about grappling with something?
I think of a sport, Sue. You know what sport I'm thinking of?
No.
Shiram.
Ah, yes.
Traditional Korean wrestling, because those wrestlers grapple with each other. They grab onto their belts and they pull and they push and they try to topple them over. So that's the literal meaning. To grapple with is you're holding on and you're fighting like that. But it can also mean to try to handle or control an issue or a problem. So every country in the world at the moment is grappling with the rise in the cost of living, with high inflation. We're all grappling with that. We're all fighting against it.
그렇죠. 씨름 선수를 연상하라고 알려주시니까 딱 그 그림이 그려지네요. Grappling with something은 무언가를 붙잡고 힘들게 문제를 해결한다든지 씨름 선수 같은 경우에는 뭐 이기려고 하는 거겠죠. 네, 그렇게 뭔가를 해 나가려고 하는데 힘든다. 이게 들어있어요.
So it's like if I asked you to eat an apple with chopsticks, you'd have to grapple with the apple.
I would have to grapple with the apple, and that rhymes, of course. Grapple with something, 무엇을 하려고 부단히 노력하고 애쓰는 모습을 말합니다. 여기서는 물론 grappling with the cost of living이라고 했어요. 생활비가 너무 많이 올라서 굉장히 힘들어하는 호주인들의 얘기였습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The Australian government has announced it will support a minimum wage increase in line with inflation this year as low-income families continue to grapple with costs of living. And that's it for the headlines.
A recent survey shows that more than half of Korea's workers are choosing to do minimal work at their jobs without actually resigning, indicating that the global trend known as quiet quitting is growing more prominent in the country.
최근 설문조사 결과 우리나라 직장인 절반 이상이 퇴사는 하지 않되 최소한의 업무만 하는 쪽을 택한다고 답해 이른바 조용한 퇴사라는 세계적 추세가 국내에서도 확산되고 있는 것으로 나타났습니다. Right, so let's talk about quiet quitting.
Yeah, so, if you have been reading the news, you might have heard that this is an ongoing trend, not just here in Korea, but around the world. And it seems like quiet quitting is growing more prominent among workers here. So the term quiet quitting, it was coined in the early 2020s, and it refers to an employee doing the absolute minimum
Right.
requirement of their job and putting no extra time or effort into it. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to quit, but more like I'm at work, but I don't want to do my best here because this is not what I want to focus on. I want to focus more on family. I want to focus more on my personal life. So this survey was conducted on a little over 1,000 employees across Korea, and they were asked about quiet quitting. And surprisingly, it showed that 51.7% said that they have done something like that. And the reason they assume is that a lot of employees here are dissatisfied with the salary benefits of their current company. That was chosen by a little over 30% of the respondents. And recent numbers, not just this figure, but a lot of other surveys have shown that a lot of workers in Korea have a relatively low level of satisfaction towards their job and of life in general, which is probably a lot of people are, not putting in their best. They're not thinking about promotions. They're not thinking about moving up in the company, but they're thinking, hey, this is not what's important to me. What's important to me is my job, or not my job, my home, my personal life. So I'm going to just do the bare minimum.
그래요. 최소한의 업무만 하겠다. Do the bare minimum. Just do the absolute minimum required at my company. 자, 이런 마인드로 일을 하는 거죠. 그래서 내가 회사에 뭐 기여를 한다든지, 내 승진을 위해서 열심히 노력한다든지, 뭐 이제 그 오버타임으로 일한다든지 이런 거 안 하는 거예요. 정말 완전히 최소한 bare minimum만 하는 거죠.
Yeah, once the clock strikes 6, everything is shut down
그렇죠.
and you just go home. Yeah.
맞습니다. 자, 그래서 이제 최근에 한 구인 구직 사이트가 한 1,000명 정도를 대상으로 한 설문조사예요. 거기서 전체 응답자의 52% 정도가 이 조용한 퇴사 상태다. 이렇게 대답을 했다고 해요. So let's break it down. 연차별로 보게 되면은 8년 차에서 10년 차 정도가 57%, 그다음에 5년 차에서 7년 차가 56%, 17년 차에서 19년 차가 55%. 다 비슷비슷하게
Yeah.
어쨌든 반이 조금 넘는 수준이에요.
And that was kind of surprising to
Yeah.
me as well because I felt like people who have been working in the same company for that long would have a lot more vested interest there. So I felt like they might have been putting in a little bit more effort than people who have been working there for less.
Yeah.
But it was relatively similar.
그렇습니다. 그러니까 지금 뭐 전체 데이터가 저희 앞에 다 있지는 않지만 어쨌든 뭐 5년 차부터 해서 한 19년 차까지 비슷비슷한 상태라고 해요. 조용한 퇴사를 한 반 조금 넘는 퍼센티지가 하고 있다.
Yeah.
이렇게 응답을 한 건데 중요한 건 그러면 왜 이렇게 할까요? What are the causes for this?
Yeah. Well, like I said, they're not satisfied with their salary. They're not satisfied with the benefits that are given at the current company. And in the bigger picture, some analysts are saying that, just Korean workers, I don't want to say in general, but a lot of Korean workers are feeling they have a low level of satisfaction. About their life in general, not just about their job.
그렇죠. dissatisfaction 얘기가 나왔어요. 불만족인데 이제 가장 큰 이유, 조용한 퇴사를 하는 가장 큰 이유가 현재 회사에서 받는 돈, 연봉과 또 복지에 대한 dissatisfaction, 불만족 이게 가장 큰 응답으로 나왔고요. 그 다음에는 이제 회사에서 일하는 것 자체에 대한 내가 passion, 열의가 없다 이런 응답도 많이 나왔고. 이직 준비 중이다. 이런 응답자도 한 20% 있었습니다.
Yeah.
자, 표현 볼게요. To resign.
Right, resigning. Resigning means you're leaving your job or maybe a position, but you're doing this voluntarily. So another way you could say this is you're quitting. You're quitting your job.
그렇죠. Quitting your job or resigning 여기서 같은 의미라고 보시면 되겠고요. 사직하다, 물러나다라는 뜻인데 resign, R-E-S-I-G-N, sign 아니고요. resign 이렇게 발음합니다. 자, 그 다음에 grow more prominent.
So if something grows more prominent, it means it becomes more important or it becomes more well-known or easy to notice. So if someone or something is in a position of prominence, it means that they're well-known and they're very important.
그렇죠. grow prominent, 무언가가 두드러지다라는 뜻인데요. more prominent니까 더욱더 무언가가 두드러지다. 다시 한번 헤드라인 읽어보겠습니다. A recent survey shows that more than half of Korea's workers are choosing to do minimal work at their jobs without actually resigning, indicating that the global trend known as quiet quitting is growing more prominent in the country. Let's move on to the second headline.
The United Nations Security Council has adopted a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, with UN Chief Antonio Guterres warning that failure to implement the resolution would be unforgivable.
UN 안전보장이사회가 이스라엘과 팔레스타인 무장정파 하마스 간의 즉각적인 휴전을 촉구하는 결의안을 채택한 가운데 이번 결의안이 이행되지 않는 것은 용서받지 못할 일이다라는 안토니오스 구테러스 UN 사무총장의 경고가 나왔습니다. Tell us more.
Right, so he posted this on social media, saying this resolution must be implemented. Failure would be unforgivable. And we're talking about a vote where the U.S. abstained from the vote, which has sparked sort of a spat with its ally Israel. But the remaining 14 council members voted for the resolution, which also demands the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages as well. So it was proposed by the 10 elected members of the body. Meanwhile, on this, the Israeli prime minister has said that failure of the U.S. to veto the resolution resolution was a quote-unquote clear retreat from its previous position and would hurt Israel's war efforts and the bid to release more than 130 hostages still held by Hamas. But the White House, they responded back saying, our vote does not, it doesn't represent a shift in their policy. And in the past, the U.S. has used its veto power to kind of shield its ally Israel as it's retaliating against Hamas for the attack back in October that Israel says has killed 1,200 people.
Well, the U.S. in this case has abstained
Yes.
from the vote. 그래서 이제 보통 유엔 안보리에서 voting을 할 때 you can abstain, 그럼 기권한다는 뜻이죠. 아니면은 you can vote for something, 찬성한다. vote against or veto.
Yes.
네, 그러면은 이제 반대한다는 뜻인데 veto power는 five permanent members 한테만 있죠.
Yeah.
상임이사국 5개 나라에게만 있습니다. 여기서 이제 기권 했다. abstained 라고 얘기를 합니다. 그거에 대해서 이제 미국은 우리가 입장 변화를 보이는 것은 아니다. 이렇게 얘기를 하고 있고요. 이제 유엔에서는 지금 어쨌거나 지금 이 상황이 계속되다가는 에스컬레이팅이 되고 정말 이제 안 좋은 상황이
Yeah.
계속 이어질 수밖에 없으니 지금 휴전을 당장 해라. 하지 않으면 용서 못한다. 이렇게 얘기를 했습니다. 자, 첫 번째 표현 immediate ceasefire.
Right, immediate ceasefire. It's, a ceasefire is a time when enemies agree to stop fighting, usually while a way is found to end the fighting permanently. And if you do something immediately, it means right away, right now.
Yeah, exactly. ceasefire가 휴전이고요. immediate가 즉각적이다. 그래서 즉각적인 휴전, immediate ceasefire. implement는 뭘까요?
Implement, it means to carry out, accomplish, especially to give sort of a practical effect to and ensure of actual fulfillment by concrete measures. So, you're saying you're putting like a decision or a plan or agreement into effect.
네. implement something, 무언가를 시행하다라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 결의안은 resolution이니까요. 결의안을 바로 지금 이행해라, 시행해라. 그 내용을 implement the resolution이라고 합니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The United Nations Security Council has adopted a resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, with UN Chief Antonio Guterres warning that failure to implement the resolution would be unforgivable.
Italy has followed France in stepping up security following the attack on a suburban Moscow concert hall as the continent gears up for big events such as the Paris Olympics and the European Championship in Germany.
러시아 모스크바 교외 지역의 공연장 테러 사건 이후 프랑스의 뒤를 이어 이탈리아도 보안 강화에 나섰습니다. 이들 나라가 속한 서유럽 지역은 현재 파리 하계올림픽과 2024 유럽 축구 선수권 대회 등 대규모 행사를 앞둔 상황입니다. Right, so let's talk about this. It's also this week is Holy Week.
Yeah.
So that means many festivities or events in regards to Christianity
Yeah.
will be going on as well. So, yeah.
Right. So the Moscow attack has definitely renewed attention in Europe on the risk from the extremists. So they're thinking that the U.S. and other Western officials have confirmed actually who is responsible for the Moscow attack. They're saying that it was an affiliate of the Islamic State group known variously. They're known as ISIS-K, ISK, ISPK. I think they've claimed that they were responsible for it, and it has been confirmed. And they're saying that this affiliate, ISIS-K or ISK, it's known to be the most aggressive IS affiliate and has repeatedly carried out attacks in Afghanistan since the Taliban seized power back in 2021. So on Sunday, France increased its security alert posture to the highest level. As we mentioned, it's Holy Week. In Italy, there's been a National Security Council meeting on Monday, which resulted in a decision to increase security around Holy Week observances leading up to Easter, which falls this weekend. So they're saying surveillance and checks will be increased, and they'll be paying the most attention to places of greatest aggregation and transit of people, as well as sensitive targets. And it's not just in France or Italy. Germany has stepped up measures. Serbia has stepped up measures. They had secret police officers with machine machine guns patrolling the streets. And they're saying undercover cops or plainclothes police are monitoring sports venues and shopping centers in the capital as well.
네, 그렇습니다. 어제도 저희가 이제 관련된 소식을 봤었는데요. 프랑스 같은 경우에는 아무래도 이제 파리 하계 올림픽이 다가오고 있기 때문에 여러 가지로 경계 태세를 늦추지 않고 있는 모습이고 그 외에도 많은 유럽 국가들이 지금 러시아에서 있었던 이 테러 사건으로 인해서 피해가 오지 않도록 굉장히 지금 여러 가지 조치를 많이 취하고 있습니다. 더군다나 여러 대형 행사들을 앞두고 있는 유럽이거든요. 조금 전에 말씀해 주신 것처럼 이번 주말이 이제 이스터 선데이, 부활절이 껴있는 주말이라서 또 그런 종교적인 행사들도 많이 있을 겁니다. 특히 로마나 바티칸 같은 경우에서는요. 군중 밀집 지역이 많을 것이기 때문에 더욱더 지금 조치를 취해야 하는 상황이다. So they are stepping up security.
Right. So to step up something, it means to increase the amount or speed or intensity of something.
그렇죠. Step up는 무언가를 강화한다는 뜻입니다. Step up security 그러면은 보안이나 안보 관련된 조치들을 더 강화한다는 뜻이고요. Gearing up은 뭐죠? 둘 다 up이네요.
Yeah, gearing up, step up, gear up. Gear up means you're preparing yourself or equipping yourself for something. So it means to get ready for something.
That's right. 준비하다, gear up. 무엇을 위해서 준비하다, gear up for. 자, 다시 한번 제가 헤드라인을 읽어보겠습니다. Italy has followed France in stepping up security following the attack on a suburban Moscow concert hall as the continent gears up for big events such as the Paris Olympics and the European Championship in Germany. And let's move on to the next headline.
An increasing number of Gen Z employees in China are adopting a new trend known as gross outfits at work, where they wear sweatpants, sleepwear, and other clothes that make them look like they just rolled out of bed.
중국의 젊은 직장인들을 중심으로 트레이닝복과 잠옷 등 자다가 방금 일어난 듯한 복장으로 출근하는 소위 역겨운 출근 복장이라는 트렌드가 확산하고 있다는 보도가 나왔습니다. 실제로 잠옷 차림에 또 슬리퍼 같은 걸 신고 이렇게 출근을 하는 젊은이들이 중국에서 늘고 있다.
Yes.
Tell us more. What's
Yeah,
going
so
on?
it seems every day is casual Friday for
Bit more than casual.
Yeah, for the younger generation, I guess, in China. So they're they're rocking their gross pajamas while on the job, and I think the mentality here is very similar to a lot of people who are thinking about quiet quitting or doing their bare minimum. They just don't think it's worth it to get up and prepare yourself, shower, do the bare minimum to look presentable at work. So they're going to work just in their pajamas. It doesn't even match the top and bottom. They're going there, and the interesting thing about this trend is that they are proudly advertising this on their social media.
네, 한 인플루언서가 내가 오늘 이런 편안한 복장으로 출근을 했는데요. 우리 상사가 역겹다고 말했어요. 이걸 올린 거예요. 소셜미디어에다. 그랬더니 요게 이제 엄청 바이럴이 돼가지고
spread, yeah.
그래서 다들 나도 할래 그러면서 이 역겨운 출근 복장 트렌드가 시작이 됐다는 후문입니다. 그래서 이것도 quiet quitting이랑 결이 조금 비슷한 것 같기도 하고
Yeah.
물론 다른 점도 있지만
Yeah, but I think that it's very similar. But I was thinking back to my college days in the States. I would wear pajamas to school.
Students do that.
Yeah, but when I came to Korea and when
Yeah.
I visited my friends attending college here, I didn't see anyone wearing pajamas. It was just, I was very shocked. I remember thinking, that's not how we look at school. But everyone was very dressed up. And
Very presentable.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
different culture, I think. Yeah.
네, 그렇습니다. 자, 중국의 젊은이들이 또 이렇게 잠옷 차림으로 출근을 하는 경우가 참 많다고 하는데 왜 그러느냐? 뭐 가장 크게는 어떤 상실감이 있다고 해요. 내가 뭐 굳이 이렇게 열심히 그 일을 해서 뭐 할 거냐?
It's that similar dissatisfaction,
하루
with
종일
their work.
그렇죠. 하루 종일 내가 그냥 책상 옆에 앉아 있을 건데 그걸 위해서 내가 돈을 들여서 옷을 살 필요가 있어? 이런 마인드가 있다고 합니다. 자, 표현 볼게요. To adopt something.
Yeah, to adopt something, you might think, oh, are you adopting a pet? It is used that way, but in this case, it means you're choosing to take up or follow or use.
Adopt a trend까지 같이 보시면 될 것 같아요. 그래서 어떤 유행을 따르다라는 의미로 보시면 되겠습니다. 자, 그 다음에는 rolled out of bed. Just rolled out of bed.
Yeah, roll out of bed. So, you're looking like you just got up and came to work. So rolling out of bed, we use it when we refer to someone who has woke up very lazily. They're getting out of bed and starting the day without, showering or brushing your teeth or putting on makeup. So it also means to rise after sleeping, especially after sleeping later than usual. So that brings on the lazy morning.
네. 침대에서 방금 일어났다라는 뜻인데 이게 이렇게 일어나야지 하는 이 느낌이 아니고요. 롤링이 뭐죠? 이렇게 몸을 돌리는 거잖아요. 그러니까 그냥 막 이러면서 일어나는 거예요.
You don't want to get out of bed.
그죠? 일어나기 싫은 느낌이 잔뜩 들어있는 표현입니다. Roll out of bed. 그래서 마치 지금 방금 침대에서 겨우겨우 일어나서 잠옷 차림으로 그대로 출근을 하는 것 같은
Roll into work.
네, 그런 복장으로 일을 한다고 하는데 이제 또 하나의 영향은 그 팬데믹 기간 동안에 실제로 재택근무를 하면서 잠옷 입고 일한 청년들이 많다 보니 그런 영향도 있다라는 분석이 있습니다. 그래요. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. An increasing number of Gen Z employees in China are adopting a new trend known as gross outfits at work, where they wear sweatpants, sleepwear, and other clothes that make them look like they've just rolled out of bed. Let's go to our final headline.
India's total fertility rate is projected to be 1.29 children per woman by 2050, with India already falling below the replacement level of fertility required for a population to exactly replace one generation with another.
인도의 합계 출산율이 대체 출산율인 2.1명 아래로 이미 떨어진 가운데 2050년에는 1.29명까지 내려갈 것으로 전망됐습니다. 대체 출산율은 한 나라의 인구가 감소하지 않고 유지되는데 필요한 수준의 출산율을 가리킵니다. 표현을 좀 먼저 봐야 될 것 같고요. 여기서 total fertility rate라는 거를 우리가 이제 합계 출산율이라고 하는데 쉽게 말해서 가임 여성이 평생 동안 낳을 자녀의 수입니다. 자, 그래서 인도에서 한 여성이 평생 동안 낳을 자녀의 수, 그 평균이 1.29명이 될 것이다.
By 2050.
네.
Yeah.
그런데 현재의 인구가 유지되려면 2.1명을 낳아야 된다. 물론 우리가 아이를 낳을 때 이게 뒤에 소수 좀 붙이는 게 좀 웃기지만 데이터니까요.
Yeah.
네. 2.1명을 낳아야 지금 현재 인도의 인구가 유지가 될 텐데 그거보다 적게 난다는 거죠.
Yeah.
And
So
India has
decreasing.
the biggest number of people in the world.
Yeah. So what surprised me was actually the average number of children that are born to a woman. So we said that it's projected to be 1.29 children per woman by 2050, but in 1950 it was over 6. It was 6.18 children per woman.
맞아요.
So it's a big drop there.
네, 이 total fertility rate 합계 출산율은 나라마다 다 다를 수밖에 없죠. 그 나라의 인구가 유지되는 데 필요한 출산율이니까. 그래서 우리나라 같은 경우는 당연히 높지 않습니다.
It's below 1.
It's
Yeah.
0.7, I believe.
Yeah.
나이지리아 같은 경우에는 African country 지금 현재도 6.7 정도가 되고요. 말씀하신 것처럼 인디아가 예전에는 6 정도였는데 지금은 이제 2.1.
Yeah.
이 정도는 나아야
Yeah.
지금 인구가 유지된다.
Yeah.
그런데 2050년까지 이대로 가다가는 1.29명. 그러니까 인구가 줄어들 거란 얘기죠.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so it's
and the reason's very similar to what a lot of people are thinking here. There's been a delay in the age of marriage, and the average age of first pregnancy has also dropped.
그런데 이제 인도가 전 세계에서 인구가 가장 많은 나라이다 보니까 이렇게 출산율이 조금 줄어들고 있음에도 불구하고 2050년에는 16억 명의 인구를 가질 것이다라고 유엔에서 내다보고 있습니다. 자, 다음 표현 볼게요.
Yeah.
replacement.
Replacement. So replacing something. It's the action or process of replacing someone or something.
그렇죠. 교체, 대체. 라는 뜻이고요. required for something.
Right. Required for something, it means it's mandatory, it's essential, it's needed or necessary.
네, 무엇을 위해서 요구되는 것. Something is required for something. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. India's total fertility rate is projected to be 1.29 children per woman by 2050, with India already falling below the replacement level of fertility required for a population to exactly replace one generation with another. And that's it for our headlines.
The Union of Intra-City Bus Drivers in Seoul has announced a general strike over wages, halting the operation of more than 7,000 intra-city buses, or 97% of the capital's total.
서울 시내버스 노조가 임금 인상 문제에 대한 이견으로 총파업을 선언하면서 서울 시내버스의 97%에 해당하는 7천여 대의 운행이 중단됐습니다. So as of around 4 a.m. this morning, buses in Seoul are on strike. You will not be able to get on a bus in Seoul to go to work.
It's going to be a nightmare.
It's going to be very hard to get on the very few buses that are operating. But basically, you can just...
Other ways, there's other ways, but I take the subway and it is going to be...
Yeah.
It's going to be horrendous.
Right. So what happened last night and yesterday?
Well, they decided that, they're going to go on strike. They weren't able to reach an agreement. I guess negotiations went on into the wee hours of the morning
so, yeah.
as well.
It just fell through, though.
Yeah, they weren't able to do it. So this union has around 18,000 members. They reportedly have demanded a nearly 13% increase in hourly wages.
Right.
And also a revision of the salary system as well. They are talking about they're talking about wage discrimination for contract workers. They want that abolished as well. Obviously, management doesn't agree. They think that their demands are excessive.
Right. 지금 결국은 노사 간의 협상이 결렬이 됐습니다. 그래서 오늘 새벽부로 이렇게 서울 시내버스가 운행을 하지 않고 있는 상황입니다. 자, 그러면 우리 첫 번째 표현을 볼 텐데요. intra-city bus라는 표현이에요.
So there's two words that are going to sound familiar. There's intra-city or intercity. So, and the way that I always think about these two words is everyone knows the internet.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah.
you can be looking, you can surf the World Wide Web.
Yes.
The internet. But at your company, most companies have an intranet.
Right.
Where you're still connected over a network, but only the people in that company
Yep.
can look at those websites or look at that information. So it's contained within
Yep.
that network. So intra-city means it's contained within that city.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect explanation. 우리 인트라넷이 있죠. 회사 내에서만 쓸 수 있는 그런 것처럼 intra-city bus는 시 안에서만 운행이 되는 버스라는 뜻이니까 시내버스라고 보면 되겠습니다. What about halt?
Stop.
Stop.
Stop. I remember whenever I hear that word, I think of one of my favorite movies from the 80s, Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. Have you ever seen that?
No.
You've never seen that?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Does he say halt a lot?
Well, he's like, the story is he's a prince from Africa and he goes to New York City to find his queen, but he's this rich prince and he gets to New York City and the first thing he does is stand in front of a taxi and say halt, and then the taxi driver gets out and says some swear words.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Well, he says something a bit different, and I'll tell you during the break. And when I was a little kid, because I watched this movie when I was really little, like 6 or 7 years old,
dear.
my friend and I laughed. We loved that part. That was my friend's favorite part. We go, halt!
그렇군요.
Anyone who's seen this movie knows what I'm talking about. Anyone who doesn't has no idea what I'm talking about. Watch, good movie.
네, 지금 레이 선생님이랑 저랑 둘 다 이렇게 손을 딱 내밀고 halt 이렇게 했잖아요. 이 단어 하나만 말했을 때는 어떤 느낌이냐면 멈추시오 이 느낌이에요.
Don't people say it if they're riding a horse? You say to the horse, halt, or they say it when like in those carriages.
In English? I mean, in Korea?
No, not in Korea. Like in English speaking, I think
I
isn't
don't know
that the
what
term
they say.
you use for horses?
Maybe.
I think?
I'm not
I feel like I've seen that on movies. When
okay.
horse-drawn carriages,
Yeah.
halt.
Maybe. 그럴 수도 있겠네요. 저는 잘 모르겠어요. 승마를 안 해서. 네, 어쨌든 이제 멈춘다는 뜻이 있기 때문에 halting operations라는 것은 이제 버스 운행을 멈춘다는 얘기겠죠. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. The Union of Intracity Bus Drivers in Seoul has announced a general strike over wage hikes, halting the operation of more than 7,000 intracity buses, or 97% of the capital's total. Let's move on to the next headline.
A timely mayday call from the cargo ship that collided with a bridge in the U.S. city of Baltimore prompted officers to halt traffic, ultimately saving lives, according to Maryland's governor.
미국 메릴랜드 주지사는 볼티모어 다리 붕괴 사고와 관련 다리와 충돌한 화물선에서 구조 요청을 적시해 보낸 덕분에 경찰이 교통을 통제할 수 있었고 결과적으로 인명 피해가 커지는 걸 막았다고 발표했습니다. Oh, again, we're seeing the word halt.
Yeah,
here.
halts in here as well.
Halting
yeah, halt
traffic.
traffic.
Now, I'm sure a lot of our listeners have seen the footage. It's shocking how this sturdy bridge, it collapses like a piece of paper, like a little paper bridge or something.
Yes, what happens when one of the supports get taken out. And the newest update, the latest update, sorry. So 6 people, all believed to be working for a road crew that was on the bridge, are missing. Everyone has presumed dead, obviously, because of the water temperature. And since it happened, 2 bodies have been recovered. This is just breaking news.
Yep.
1 Mexican and 1 Guatemalan.
지금 가장 업데이트된 소식을 전해주셨는데요. 6명의 실종자 중에 2명의 시신이 지금 발견이 됐다라고 합니다. 이 6명은 construction worker였어요. 새벽 1시쯤이었는데 이 다리 위에서 건설 작업을 좀 하고 있었던 모양입니다. 그래서 6명에 대해서는 이제 계속 업데이트가 있을 것 같고 사실 이 굉장히 큰 다리인데 배가 화물선이 이제 부딪혀서 다리가 무너져 내렸을 때 이제 우리가 지금 뉴스에서 보다시피 알고 보니 그때 distress call, mayday 콜이 있었다라는 게 지금 전해지고 있습니다. 그로 인해서 더 큰 인명 피해를 막을 수 있었다는 건데요. Tell us what happened. We are of course talking about this Singapore-run vessel.
Singapore flagged.
Singapore
yeah, that's what
flagged
they
vessel.
say. Yeah,
Okay.
vessels are always they
Okay.
fly a certain flag.
Yep.
So they was going from Baltimore, which is a big port city, to Sri Lanka, and apparently just after it left the port, it completely lost power, and the vessel was basically dead. There were no electronics, no
Right.
engine power. It was just drifting. And then it ran into the Francis Scott Key Bridge at around 1:30 a.m. But they issued that Mayday call, which did, as the governor said, save lives because they were able to stop traffic. It is a bit puzzling why this road crew was still on the bridge.
Yeah.
When we were talking about that, you know, they were all migrant workers or immigrants, and why were they working at 1:30 in the morning? So it is a little bit questionable.
Let's go back to the actual accident. As you said, it was around 1:30 a.m. in the wee hours of the morning. And just before that, this vessel, it made this mayday call and it said, we have no control
Yeah,
of this vessel.
we're heading towards the
Yeah,
bridge.
I think it's going to crash into that bridge.
Yeah.
And then within the span of about 2 minutes, they were able to make sure that no more
Yeah.
cars or anyone
Right.
would cross the bridge. And then after 2 minutes, it actually did crash.
Yeah, but why that road crew was there is very puzzling.
네, 그렇습니다. 이 발티모어에 있었던 다리와 충돌한 화물선이요. 메이데이 콜을 만들었었다라는 얘기가 있습니다. 그러니까 조난 신호 아니면 구조 요청을 할 때 메이데이 콜을 한다라고 하는데요. 지금 현재 이 화물선 통제를 할 수 없습니다라는 것을 즉각 알렸다라는 거죠. 화물선에 있었던 사람들이. 그래서 결국은 2분 만에 이제 다리에 부딪히긴 했지만 그 2분 안에 더 이상의 차량이 다리를 건너지 못하도록 교통 통제를 한 덕분에 더 큰 인명 피해는 막을 수 있었다. 이런 얘기가 되겠습니다. I think people have heard of the term Mayday, Mayday in movies and things like that. We're talking about an emergency, right?
Right, it's an internationally recognized distress signal.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think all airplanes, ships, anytime they're basically in an emergency situation,
Right.
they say that.
그렇죠. 메이데이라는 단어 하나만 썼을 때도 이제 비상 상황이고 도움을 요청한다는 뜻인데, 메이데이 콜을 했다라는 것은 구조 요청을 했다는 거죠. And ultimately. They were able to-
Ultimately is
yeah.
used to emphasize a major point about something. You can think of it as like finally, or a lot of people use the phrase at the end of the day. So it's usually after many things have happened. So if you like, my example would be, say a company went bankrupt, right? There's lots of reasons why, okay, this product wasn't selling, or what. There's probably many, advertising wasn't very good. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it's management's responsibility to fix those problems. So
Yeah.
a manager might say that, a CEO might say, like, ultimately, it's my fault, it's my responsibility
그쵸.
that this happened.
결과적으로는 내지는 궁극적으로는 이라는 뜻으로 ultimately라고 할 수 있습니다. 자, 다시 볼게요. A timely mayday call from the cargo ship that collided with a bridge in the U.S. city of Baltimore prompted officers to halt traffic, ultimately saving lives, according to Maryland's governor.
Shares in former U.S. President Donald Trump's media company surged as it formally debuted on the stock market on Tuesday, propelling the firm's market value to over $9 billion.
도널드 트럼프 전 미국 대통령이 설립한 미디어 회사가 지난 화요일 주식시장에 거래된 첫날부터 주가가 급등해 회사의 시장 가치가 장중 한때 90억 달러를 넘기도 한 것으로 알려졌습니다. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So shares actually almost hit $80 yesterday. So at one point the market cap was over 10 billion.
Okay.
And then it went down, so they ended the day around 8 billion, and so market cap means market capitalization.
Right.
You take the share price and multiply it by the number of shares. That's the simple math for that. So it closed around 58 yesterday. I just checked. It closed at $66 in the second day of trading. So it's really kind of been going up and down. A lot of analysts are saying that this doesn't really make that much sense based on the firm's performance. Trump Media's Truth Social, which is like Twitter, that brought in only $3 million in revenue in the first 9 months of last year and lost nearly $50 million.
Okay.
So there is some wonder as to why, but a lot of people are saying a lot of this looks like it's Trump supporters maybe, and it's not these big Wall Street investment banks that are investing. It's people who like Trump.
There's definitely going to be a lot of publicity from this, and
Right.
I guess that could and will affect the race, the presidential race, to some regard. Let's have a look at our first expression, which is to debut.
To debut, make your first appearance. So this can be some new actor or actress in a movie. They make their debut. An athlete can make their debut on a team. You can even get traded to another team or sign with another team and then make your debut.
그렇죠. 우리는 데뷔라고 하는데 영어식으로는 debut 이렇게 발음을 합니다. D-E-B-U-T. We're talking about, of course, shares of Trump's media company. 그리고 아까 또 언급했던 표현 중에 market cap라는 표현이 있었어요. 이제 market capitalization의 줄임말인데 이게 시가총액이 되겠습니다. What about propel?
Well, if you think about a helicopter, that big, on the top of the helicopter, those big blades, that's a propeller.
Yeah.
Or a boat. Boats have propellers. So it's the thing that powers the vehicle. So you can think of propel in the same way.
Yeah.
It powered it, it pushed it, it drove the market cap over 10 billion.
프로펠러가 이렇게 움직이면은 비행기의 기체가 움직이듯이 뭔가 몰고 가다, 추진하다 이런 뜻입니다. propel. 다시 읽어볼게요. Shares in former U.S. President Donald Trump's media company surged as it formally debuted on the stock market on Tuesday, propelling the firm's market value to over $9 billion. Let's move on to the next headline.
Thailand has initiated a comprehensive campaign to capture and relocate monkeys from residential areas in Lopburi City, prompted by the damage caused by the animals.
태국 롯부리시의 주거 지역에서 원숭이로 인한 피해가 잇따르자 정부가 이들을 포획해 다른 곳으로 보내는 광범위한 캠페인을 시작했습니다. Okay, so too many monkeys?
Too many monkeys, yeah. The macaque population in Lopburi, they're saying, has become increasingly aggressive, stealing food from people, attacking people. They've even injured several people recently. I saw one story where they steal cell phones even.
Yeah.
So yeah,
They're notorious for that, aren't they?
yeah, they're kind of pests actually. So this city decided, okay, we got to catch these and then relocate them, move them to a to like, what were they calling it, like a monkey garden or something like that?
Yeah.
A place where they can live outdoors and
Right.
and
Some sort of sanctuary.
A sanctuary. Thank you. However, they are in that community, in that district. They don't want them because they're worried. What if these monkeys? Because I think they're saying around 50 of them were the first batch. They were saying, well, what happens if they escape the sanctuary? What if they cause damage? Who's going to pay for it? So the city council there voted against it, and apparently they've actually halted this plan.
So no one wants these monkeys.
No one wants them. So it was temporarily halted on Wednesday. So we'll have to, again, this is kind of a developing story to see what ends up happening.
그래요. 이제 정부에서 이 원숭이들을 포획해가지고 다른 지역으로 옮기자 하는 캠페인을 벌이기는 하는데 그 다른 지역의 주민들도 아니 우리 있는 곳으로 데려오지 마세요. 이렇게 하다 보니까 지금 약간 갈 곳이 없어지는 상황이네요. 첫 번째 표현 보겠습니다. This is all part of a comprehensive campaign.
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I guess it is. Comprehensive means thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah, or very broad. So a lot of times, like we think about it in school, right? So it's a comprehensive course. This course covers a lot of topics. The scope is very broad.
그러네요. 광범위한 뭔가 포괄적인이라는 뜻으로 comprehensive를 학교에서도 쓸 수 있고 지금 여기서는 캠페인과 관련해서도 좀 포괄적인 캠페인이다 이렇게 볼 수 있을 것 같습니다. 광범위하다. 그 다음에는 relocate.
To move. You can see the word locate there. So it's to move someone to a different location. This happens a lot in sports, actually. Teams will relocate. There's still tons of hockey fans in Quebec City. They're still angry that this happened in the 90s to their team.
아, 그렇군요. relocate라는 게 이제 이전하다, 다른 곳으로 배치한다라는 뜻입니다. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Thailand has initiated a comprehensive campaign to capture and relocate monkeys from residential areas in Lopburi City, prompted by the damage caused by the animals. And let's move on to the final headline.
The much debated floating door from the 1997 film Titanic, which only had room to save Kate Winslet's Rose, but not Leonardo DiCaprio's Jack, has sold at auction for more than $700,000.
1997년 영화 타이타닉에서 케이트 윈슬릿이 연기한 로즈만 살리고 레오나르도 디카프리오의 잭은 태우지 못한 것을 두고 크기상의 논란이 있었던 문짝 소품이 경매에서 $70만 넘는 가격에 낙찰됐습니다.
How much did you cry at the end of this movie when you watched this back in the 90s?
A little bit.
97.
Yeah. Well,
A little bit, come on.
Yeah, I love this movie. I really did.
And here's the funny thing. It's not even a door. Everyone says it's a door. It's not a door.
Oh.
I was just reading about this. It's a door.
Okay.
It's a piece of wood from a door frame. It's not an actual door.
Okay, interesting. Well, of course, the debate goes on. I think Kate Winslet and DiCaprio have been asked this question year after year.
So is James Cameron.
The
he says,
director.
yeah, and they did it. They actually, I was reading an article where he said they did a test.
Oh.
They took a piece of wood, put it in water, and they got two people that were the same size as them, and it sunk.
Oh, okay. So then it was logical.
But he says it doesn't matter anyways because at the end of the day, he said it's like Romeo and Juliet. Jack had to die.
Oh dear. The lovers had to part.
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look at our first expression. Much debated.
Anytime you say much something, then it means a lot, right? So a much maligned coach means everyone's angry at that coach. Much debated topic, it means people talk about it a lot. People debate it.
논란이 많았던, 말이 많았던 무언가 할 때 a much hyphen debated 무엇 이렇게 표현하면 되고요. Have room to do something. 이거 뭘까요?
In this case, it means literal room, space. There was not enough space for two people on the door, and I think that, or the piece of wood, whatever you want to call it, the panel. But the thing is, like, I think people can say, oh, there was a room for another person, but what the director and everyone says is, yeah, but it wouldn't have mattered because they both would have died then.
그래요.
But we say this a lot. If you say you go to a restaurant, you might say, oh, do you have room for 2 more people? Is there, or you're putting things in the fridge,
Yeah.
for example. And so, oh,
Right.
is there room for this? Do you
No,
have
there's
room
no
for that?
room.
There's no more room. Get out. No.
네, 여기서의 room은 방이 아니고요. 공간이나 자리를 말합니다. 그래서 여기 자리 있어요? 냉장고 안에 이거 좀 넣고 싶은데 자리 있어? 이런 거. 공간이 있어? 물어볼 때 is there room? No, there's no room. There's plenty of room. 이런 식으로.
Lots of space.
그렇죠. space라는 의미로 쓰는 건데 이 문짝에 과연 로즈와 잭이 같이 탈 공간이 됐나 안 됐나 이걸 가지고 수십 년째 디베이트가 이어져 오고 있거든요. Was there room for 2 people?
There might have been, but
괜찮아요.
yeah.
Yeah, 그래요. 그래서 have room to do something. 뭐뭐 할 공간이 있다. 내지는 뭐 여유가 있다. 비유적으로 쓸 수도 있거든요. 자, 그럼 다시 읽어보겠습니다. The much debated floating door from the 1997 film Titanic, which only had room to save Kate Winslet's Rose, but not Leonardo DiCaprio's Jack, has sold at auction for more than $700,000. That's it for the headlines.